Hello, I'm Erin J. Doyle. Welcome to my channel. I made a video earlier talking about my goals for 2025 and I left one of my goals off my list, which, was kind of inevitable because I didn't write a list. I decided to make that video whilst walking down the street, walked into the house, set up my camera and started talking. There was no note-taking process. It was entirely off the cuff, and I stopped filming and then looked at my list of other videos that I should bulk film whilst I have a chance, and at the top of the list was a thing that really should have been in my goals for the year. But anyway, so one of my goals for the year is going to be fulfilled in this video, or at least discussed and begun, because maybe it will require a bit more work that I haven't thought through entirely. What I want to do is completely redesign my website. My website exists, and that just is kind of it. It just sits there, existing. And I feel like it's underutilized in that I don't know. What do I mean? I feel like I could put more content on there than I do. And I'm not going to start selling a course or anything, so obviously that's not what I'm going to do. Before I publish my book, there's nothing to upload regarding that, but I still think that I could do more with it. And one of the big things at the moment, I'll see if I can put it up here, but my computing editing software, yes, excellent. My video editing software keeps crashing on me at the moment. I might have to replace it, but if I can, I'll try and use this blank space. At the moment, you open my website and it has my name, and then it says, I think, poet, biologist, adventurer. And the reason it does that is because when I built my website, I did due diligence and I went and spied on all the authors I could find who had various levels of presence on the internet, and I was particularly interested in what people at my career position were doing. And what I noticed is that a lot of people had name and then three things, and it seemed a little bit formulaic, but it was what people were doing. It was creating a tagline basically to go with the brand name, which is just the author's name. So monkey see, monkey do, that's what I came up with. And I thought at the time, like, cool, I'm a published poet, so you can't buy a collection of my work, but that is the work that's published, and it feels a little bit more comfortable to me to say I'm a poet than an author, because saying author implies publication. Writer doesn't have the same meaning to me. Like, I could have just said writer. I think actually in my first version of my website I might have said writer, but then I was looking through my published work and I was like, it's all poetry, so I put poet up. It just felt a bit more specific for what I could offer people in terms of content. And then biologist, I was like, well, it's just my day job, realistically, but I think it's interesting, obviously, and I think it's interesting in that some people have never met a scientist of any kind before, and to them, meeting a scientist can be quite interesting. Like, I've had experiences before where I've mentioned that I'm a scientist and people are feeling like, oh my god, you can be a scientist in New Zealand? And I'm like, yes you can. This is a weird conversation to me, but you know, to the occasional person it's quite unusual and interesting, and I thought I could put that in. But also that if I talk about being a scientist coupled with the writing thing, then I can talk about my day job and it's not a big surprise when you discover I'm a scientist. And it meant that I could potentially make scientific content as part of my AuthorTube efforts. which hasn't actually been the case, but I've at least like left the option on the table for myself, I think, by putting biologist in that line on my website. And then adventurer, it was because like I've travelled a little bit, and pre-pandemic the job I had involved oh no, I touched my hair and ruined it. Not that it was that good to begin with, but you just like touch it once and it goes anyway, my job involved a small amount of field work, and at least pre-pandemic, and like one of the times I went out and I stayed on an uninhabited island off the coast of New Zealand, and then each day a boat came and picked us up and took us over to a private island, which did have a house on it, but it wasn't occupied. But it was a private island, and we went up the back of the island literally with a machete and cut our way through these like horrible prickly bushes in order to access a gannet colony, and we were catching the gannets and weighing them and things. And I'm like, that was so cool. And because there were a whole bunch of other scientists in the area, like there was another research team also staying on this uninhabited island that we were on, which has like a it does have permanent buildings on it for people to come and stay. So there was like a dock and a couple of cabins that didn't have electricity. No, sorry, there was a generator, but it only ran basically for a couple of hours a day. And again, there were toilets and stuff. So it wasn't like super rugged, but it was still like most people will never step foot here. Even amongst New Zealanders, most people will never be here ever. So anyway, there were other researchers, and we were on our boat going off to our gannet colony, and we saw some dolphins, and that other team was researching dolphins and were basically just driving around the Bay of Islands trying to find dolphins. And so we stopped instead of just carrying on our way and radioed the other boat to say, look, come to us, we're right with them. And we just, you know, got to sit there and watch all these dolphins just, you know, dancing around our boat whilst we waited for the other research team to come to our location so they could do sampling. They were recording the animals' sounds. It's like super cool. And I was like, that sort of experience wasn't my day-to-day, but it was part of my day job. And I thought that, coupled with the fact that usually once a year I would go to Australia or maybe somewhere else, I was like, I do not an intense amount of travel. I wouldn't call myself like, you know, a travel influencer or anything, but I did enough that I thought I could again use it for content purposes, maybe make videos on it, whatever. And so I thought putting it in there would be a good idea. So now I have my website that says like Erin J. Doyle, poet, biologist, adventurer, and I'm like, I don't really have any of that content on my website. I just have poetry. So that seems weird. Like, why am I advertising that I am these things if this isn't content that I'm providing in this situation? My battery is threatening to die. Give me a second. Okay. I have just had to replace, get the cushions in the right position, I've just had to replace a threatening to die battery with a battery that was on the charger but still charging. So I might not actually have bought myself that much more time. But anyway, we're gonna persevere. What was I saying? Ah yes, so I have a website that talks about 3 things, supposedly, but really doesn't have that. So at the moment, after the landing page, at the bottom there's like a little strip that shows you what my YouTube channel is currently doing. I have that there because I feel like it's the content that I'm producing the most regularly and is the most accessible at this time. I'm kind of 50-50 about having it there at all. Like, I kind of think maybe I should just have a cover page, and then you have to click on places to go to specific other parts of the website rather than having those other parts visible there. But then I do see some people have websites that just have everything on their landing page and you just kind of keep scrolling and finding things. I personally think I like a landing page with places to go. So maybe I should get rid of that YouTube panel, or at least move it to a different location. So I don't know about that one. So if you go to the menu, you can then look at, what have I got? I have an about page that has a very short blurb entirely in English, and that's something that I could change. So obviously, as an English speaker who's trying to write books in English to sell to English speakers, it makes a lot of sense that it's in English. But what it misses out currently is another thing that I could do. So in New Zealand, when you formally introduce yourself, like if you're going to get up to do a presentation or something like that, you could, and it's increasingly common too, perform a pepeha, which is like, it's basically just a formal introduction to yourself. It's always given in Māori, so the indigenous language, and it follows a sort of formula. So you start off talking about who you are in a really broad context of basically where you're from, and you name the mountain and the river that you're connected to, and then you get more and more specific, and you end with your name. But in the middle you can have things like the name of the boat that brought your ancestors to the country. You could name your parents, you could say where you were born, where you live now if it's somewhere else. There's lots of embellishment and extra bits that you can put in there. You also state in the last little line, or a couple of lines, you would state your iwi or tribe, hapu or sub-tribe, and your marae, or like the meeting place that your people go to before you get down to your name. And currently, none of that information is on my website, but I could separate my about page into two halves and have an English side and a pepeha on the other. The English side wouldn't be a direct translation of the pepeha, they'd be two different bits of content, and it would mean that people who came across it could see who I am in a Māori context, or more broadly a New Zealand context, because a non-Māori person can also give a pepeha. And then the English side would be more the like, my name is this is my job, I write stuff. You know, so I was thinking it might be cool to have the two. I've thought about doing this for ages and I keep hesitating. I don't, maybe I know, I was going to say I don't know why. I think I do know why. I think some people won't know what it is. Some people will. But I think the hesitation is I have two iwi and I know how to do a pepeha for one. As in, like, the formula that I was taught assumes you only have one, and I don't know as a non-speaker how to modify it to say and also. And I've looked it up and I've seen a couple of different ways of doing it, and I don't know which is the most correct, and as someone who's not fluent in the language, I'm hesitant to make the call. The next thing on my website is a list of my publications, which I've written in a really kind of academic way. Where possible, I have links to where you can view those publications in the journal that they were published in the case of online journals. But I've got quite a few which that's not an option for, and I can link to like the website of that journal, but that journal has archived that issue and it's not accessible. And I think this seems very clinical and unhelpful, and there's no reason why I can't share my work there. It's not like there's any kind of copyrights with these things having been published or anything. So I think, I tried to say think and thought at the same time and it came out weird. I think what I want to do is rework that page. So you click on the name of the poem and like a PDF pops up, or maybe it comes up in a different window. I don't want to make it like a you have to download thing, because obviously people will be like, oh, I don't want to download stuff from some random website I just came across. But I think having it be So in one way or another, you can view the poetry would be a good option. The other thing I could do on that page is have videos of readings. So I've done a few live readings in the past, and I've also got some YouTube videos where I read my poetry. I could put those there, but in the case of the ones which are also my YouTube channel, it feels redundant if there's also YouTube content on the website. So I've got to decide how I want to play with that. But I want to have it at least so that you click on the name of a poem and then you can read the poem, not have to go on some kind of wild goose chase, or have it not be a hyperlink at all and you just go, oh, okay, cool, so you wrote a poem, did you? And that's it. So that's what's currently my website and the decisions that I want to make in regards to the existing content. But I feel like I could also do a little bit more in regards to that first page where it says biologist adventurer. Like, what is that? So what I had been thinking is maybe make it so that poet, biologist, adventurer are actually buttons, and you click on those and it takes you to a relevant page that you could also navigate to via the menu. This would require, though, that I have content for biology and adventuring, and I think there's potentially I could like blog in that space, particularly with adventures. I could just have like, or even just like some kind of scrapbooky vibe, or like, I mean, obviously the easiest thing to do is like just go to my Instagram. Like, I never shared anything about my trip to Korea on YouTube. If you want to find out about my Korea trip, there was stuff on Instagram. Not enough because I was being lazy at the time, but like that's where it is. So do I just go click adventurer, go to Instagram? No, because Instagram also has like stuff that I'm reading and, you know, random Instagrammy crap. So I think if I made it a page on my website, then I could make it kind of travel specific. I could make it, you know, not just here's a picture, but like here's an actual bit of text about what I've been doing. The problem with that is, like, A, effort of continually updating it, and B, for a while it would be blank because I haven't gone anywhere and done anything recently enough. Well, I suppose I did just move countries, maybe that's a lie. But yeah, that's the sort of thing I'm thinking could go in that space. And that leaves me with the biologist bit. And the thing is, part of me is like, I don't want people who find me via writing content to be able to very quickly find out where I work, because men, like, people can get weird, right? Like, we know if you say to the internet where you live, the internet will come knocking at your door. So obviously we don't want to do that, and you know, people don't tell you where they work on YouTube, right? The problem is, as a scientist, it's really easy to find out where I work. Like, it's everywhere. Everything that I do as a scientist, I have to state the institute that I'm affiliated with. So you can find out where I'm working, like, in seconds, if you are inclined to. And that information is multiple websites, all the things. It's very easy to find. So I have this like, no, don't tell the internet where you work. But if someone wanted to find it, they could find it anyway, because every publication I've ever written has my institute on it. I have profiles on multiple like sciencey websites that tell you the institute that I'm affiliated with. It's not hard to find. So I'm like, doesn't matter. So I could potentially talk about PhD stuff on that page. I don't know if I really want to. I could have lists of my publications. That seems irrelevant because this is my author website, not a professional thing. And I'm like, do I want people who are looking for me in that professional context to too readily find me in the writing context? This is why initially I had been considering publishing under just my initials instead of my full name, so there'd be at least some potential grey area, not a certainty that I was the same person in both contexts. But anyway, I have to make a decision and I don't quite know what to do. I could just have, I don't know, a couple of random pictures, a blurb about like what kind of research I do, and then links to like my scientific social media, because there's like a ResearchGate, which is kind of like Facebook for scientists, where you have a profile and you can follow other people and you can read their research. So I could have something like that, which would address why I've said biologist on my website, but it really doesn't tell you why am I telling you all these things when I really just want you to know that I wrote a book one day. And you should buy the book that I have yet to write. So, I need to make some decisions about this. And I want to get that done and prettied and looking nice and not like an afterthought of itself. And I want to get that done this year. I'm not going to set a more specific time, but I would like to get that done this year. So that, or perhaps I need to get it done before I start querying agents, so that when they try and find what kind of presents I already have, they find something that looks nice. So maybe I should get onto that sooner rather than later. So, those are my plans for my website. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Should I completely axe the poet, biologist, adventurer part and just completely focus on the poetry part and never mind having a tagline? Or should I build out those two additional things and also have travel and scientific key content available via my website as well? Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!